Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to the Thursday edition. Can you believe we're at the end of a week already of the Israel Brief, brought to you by Lay of the Land and hosted by me, Rolene Marks, as I bring you those top stories from Israel and surrounds every Monday to Thursday. Now, in this era of misinformation and disinformation, a lot of people are looking for reputable sources to get their news. And you can rest assured that everything that is broadcast on the Israel Brief has been corroborated and verified. But we need your help. Due to restrictions on Facebook, due to advertising and various other platforms, our reach has been restricted. So when you see the Israel Brief or any of the Lay of the Land content, please do us a solid and share with as many people as possible. And a reminder where you can get that content. You can get it on our website at www.layoftheland.online. All our original written content plus your recaps of the Israel Brief are all up on there. We are also on Facebook. Our Facebook page is at Lotl Site. Our community is growing slowly but surely, and we would love you to be a part of it. So please consider liking us, following us, and of course, sharing our content. Our YouTube channel, where you may be watching this very brief, is at the Israel Brief, and it really helps us if as many people as possible out there hit that red subscribe button and share as much as possible. And of course, we're on Twitter at Lay of the Land 5. But let's get into those top stories, and we begin with a request from Ukrainian President Zelensky to the Israeli Knesset for the opportunity to address the lawmakers. Now, the Knesset is Israel's parliament, and just several days ago, President Zelensky received a standing ovation as he addressed the British House of Commons. Unfortunately, our Speaker of the Knesset, Miki Levy, told him that the Knesset is not in session at the moment, but what he is going to do is he's going to organize a Zoom for President Zelensky to address Israel's lawmakers. Now, many people have been opining on Israel's role as a mediator in the war between Russia and Ukraine, but what do Israelis feel? Do we support our cautious, measured stance by our government? And according to a recent poll or survey, at least 67% of Israelis support Israel's very, very measured stance and approach to the war. However, it is felt that as casualties continue to mount and that as the crisis gets deeper, the pressure will be put on lawmakers from Israel, from her citizens, to toughen up her stance and maybe start applying more sanctions against Russia. Meanwhile, it was reported by Kan broadcaster last night that Israel will also be opening up a field hospital, this time on the border of Romania. Our big field hospital on the Ukrainian side of the border is almost ready to go, and we do have other medical facilities in Moldova as well. Meanwhile, 11 children who are battling cancer in Ukraine have arrived in Israel for life-saving treatment. And just to reiterate, Israel's Ministry of Interior said yesterday that we will be accepting at least 25,000 Ukrainian refugees. In other news, and it's taken a while due to internal political conflict, but early hours of this morning, Israel time, the U.S. House has passed the very, very, very much needed $1 billion aid package to restock and refund those very important Iron Dome batteries. Now, the Iron Dome is purely a defensive weapon, and for those out there who might not know how it works, the Iron Dome saves not only Israeli lives, but Palestinian lives as well in times of conflict. How it works is that when rockets are fired from the Gaza Strip towards Israel, the onboard radars plot where they think those rockets are likely to land. if they are headed straight for civilian areas, the algorithm will set off the red alert warning citizens to run for cover, and then it will deploy its missile interceptors. If the algorithm predicts that the rockets coming in are not going to land in civilian areas, it will just allow them to land normally in empty fields where this happens. Now, our Defense Minister Benny Gantz, as well as our Foreign Minister Yair Lapid, tweeted out their thank you to the US lawmakers, saying that this not only cements our strong areas of cooperation, but also just reiterates the strong bonds that Israel and the United States have. And on the subject of strong bonds, yesterday we brought you the story that our President Isaac Herzog was in Turkey for a historic visit to the country, the first time that a leader from Israel has visited since President Perez in 2008. Now, yesterday, the meeting between Erdogan and Herzog seemed to run over time, and this is normally seen as a good thing. And in a press conference afterwards, the two leaders said that sometimes they might disagree, but this is a turning point in relations between our two countries. And the most important thing is that even if we disagree, we keep those channels of dialogue open. And we also had confirmation from the Turkish foreign minister that he will visit Israel in April to speak with his Israeli counterpart Yair Lapid to discuss the mutual swapping of ambassadors. A very, very positive sign, because both countries have withdrawn our respective ambassadors. And just before the president left for his return trip to Israel today, he visited a synagogue in Istanbul, addressing members of the Turkish Jewish community and reminding them that we all share a shared destiny. The president has touched ground in Israel, and we welcome him back. And our final story, as our president is touching ground back home here, our IDF Chief of Staff, Aviv Kochavi, is on his way to Manama in Bahrain, our Abrahamic peace partners, where he will meet with his counterpart, and they will discuss the prospect of an Iranian deal, what has been discussed in Vienna, and of course, very important security concerns for each country. This is in addition to a major treaty signed yesterday between Israelis and Bahrainis with cooperation with regards to healthcare. And on that note, that brings us to the end of today's edition of the Israel Brief. Don't forget to check us out online to see where in the country we are wishing you Shabbat Shalom from. But in the meantime, we just want to wish you a peaceful, safe and healthy weekend wherever you are. Don't forget to check back with us next week for all your top stories from Israel. I'm Rolene Marks. This is the Israel Brief. Thank you for watching, and Shabbat Shalom.